These are my favorite episodes. You know why?
Why?
You know why?
Tell me.
Because we have no idea what we're going to talk about.
I was thinking of that earlier, and
True life stuff. This is
yeah,
life stuff.
we have such such a connection that we don't have to. How do I say this? What am I trying to say? That it just flows, and we used to like to plan what we're going to say and how we're going to do it, and now we just, but I'm kind of like stalling now because honest to God, we're not landing on something yet.
I know, but I was going to add to what you were saying in that, like, there comes a point, I think, in friendship or relationships where after enough time has passed, which I don't really know what that time is, but like for us, it's been enough time that we don't really fret the little things anymore. Like we sometimes used to debate and sort of stand up for whatever your version of it you think was. Like we still debate things, but I think we don't debate the little things that like and that to me means like I can tell when you're just like it should be this way. And I'm like, you're right. I actually don't really like it should be that way. Or you can tell when I'm like we really should do it this way and we don't need to like go back and forth the way we sometimes used to before, which is just natural in figuring out the the ebbs and flows of a relationship. And I think in many ways, not that this episode has to be about this, but like investing in relationships requires like time, effort, and also like time, and it's worth investing in because then you get to this place where it's just you don't have to deal with all those other things anymore. Because we've had times where it almost shifted into just friendship, not working together, or we've had our moments, but we've worked through them.
So I'm smiling because before you just said all that, um, what came to me, and this is why it works with Justin and I, because we just seem to be on the same energetic plane, or whatever you want to say it. Because what I was going to say is, let's talk about relationships. I swear to God. And then you started talking about that. I mean, I brought it up because about the relationship we had, but I
Yeah.
didn't really explain it properly.
Mm.
So, you know, let's talk about relationships,
Yeah.
and what makes a good relationship. Now, you tell me what you think makes for a good relationship, and I'll tell you what I think, because I'm going through something right now, um, that really examines, um, or looks at what I think makes a good relationship and what I'm looking for in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a love relationship, or whatever. And I
Mm.
mean, obviously, it changes with different people, but I think we have at our core what we believe and what we think makes for a good relationship. So, what do you think?
A good relationship to me is one that allows for the ups and downs of life to exist and not rock the boat in a way that would end or change the relationship, which that's kind of confusing. But what I mean is that like I want to be in relationship with people who take it all. I don't know. Can you go first? Like I don't know how to say this yet.
Yeah, and you know what?
It is a hard thing to describe because my point with what I was trying to say before about you and our relationship, the shift that I've noticed for myself is that little things that I used to like truly little things, like when we were deciding font or like the what it should be called or just the tiniest little things. Sometimes I would like I have to stand up for what I think this should be, otherwise it's not an equal partnership. And in fact, I'm much more quick to be like, no, what he said makes sense, you're just trying to make it your way. And why I think it works, if that's the example we're going to use, is that you also do the same thing. Like I know I can tell the times that you're like, yeah, that's great, actually let's do it that way. And so those little moments don't get in the way. And even if I think back to more romantic relationships in my life, I have focused in on these tiny little moments that then expand into bigger problems that had nothing to do with those, that was nothing to do with the relationship. It was just my focusing on this little thing. And so I think to me, a good relationship now in my life is one where you can see the bigger picture and also just like a level of unconditional love. You don't have to change for me. I don't have to change for you, but we will have to make some compromises here and there in our coexisting.
To me, what I've always said, whether it's a friendship or love relationship, the most important thing is communication. Now, that means different things to different people because some people are not good at communicating. Some people don't really communicate. Some people have a really hard time talking about things. Some people really internalize things. I know for me that I can't have a friendship or relationship with somebody like that because for me, it's important to talk about things and to when there's a problem, you talk about it and you see if you can work it out. And then you decide, okay, or sometimes it's like, okay, how big of an issue is that really? And how important is that to me? Um, I often use you and my friend Jay and my friend Sam, female friend Sam, as a description for me of what I look for and what I think is really important because I know so many people and have dated so many people that are not like this. And that is the way we communicate.
Mhm.
So I will send you a message, or I'll send Sam a message, or I'll send Jay a message. And you guys respond to everything that I say,
Yeah.
right? And for the most part, also remember things that I say and will maybe ask me about it the next day or whenever we talk again. And I love that,
Yeah.
and because I do the same. I mean, Sam, I think she literally goes through my message line by line and she will respond to every single thing. Now,
Yeah.
I love it, but I don't expect that from most people. Most people do not do that.
Yeah.
So for me, I need to decide, okay, like, can I compromise on that? And I think I can because not everyone can be like us.
No.
And so then you have to decide what is important to you. What is a deal breaker and what isn't,
Hmm.
you know? Um, I think, and again, there's a fine line between accepting someone the way they are and not wanting to change someone. Because
Yeah.
if you want to change so many things about somebody, or if you can't accept a lot of things, then there's no relationship,
Yeah.
right? And like you, I mean, as I've gotten older, I like to think that I've become um, less less expectational and less demanding. But yeah,
It's like you're right. It's a fine line because these expectations are of value to you. Like the expectation that somebody would respond to what you're asking isn't crazy. However, I think over the years we've both realized that like these high expectations are often not met, and then we end up being disappointed in the equation. And so it feels like taking a bit of your own power back by expecting very little of people, and then what they do show up with you can learn to work with and also even be a little surprised by, um, because I think those are the things that help you sift through who you actually want to spend time with. I think that I've noticed, like, people don't always like take that time to be like, who do I actually want in my life? And you have to be willing to let some friendships go. Not even that you have to break up with them, but not invest time in them because they don't actually bring you joy. And that's not, there's nothing against that person. But over the years, I've just learned that like I'd rather be spending really quality time with people that really understand me. And that doesn't mean they think just like me and we, agree on everything. In fact, you and I don't agree on everything, but we have learned, as you've already mentioned in this episode, something that's really important is just how to communicate with each other. Over time, you develop these things, and it's worth investing because then you benefit from that later, and the relationship can be, it's a thing that it could never have been earlier because you were figuring these things out in the friendship. And I think what I'm trying to say is just like it's worth the time investing. People are like, it's so quick, everything's so fast, and you expect things to be so like immediately deep, immediately meaningful, immediately impactful, immediately, and if it's not, fuck it, it's not worth any of your time. That's actually not how things grow. And yes, use your heart, use your gut, use your whatever you're using to make decisions to sort of sift through who you want to spend time with and who you don't. But I would say what I've learned also is that if I was just to live based on those immediate feelings all the time, I wouldn't be friends with certain people that I'm still friends with because I don't know, weathered the storm. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Well, I do, but I'm going to take a different angle on that. And I, I have learned, and over the years, and it took a while to accept this, that people just come and go from your life, and people are in your life for a reason. And it could be, you know, I mean, it could be a week, could be a month, could be years, but people change, you
mhm,
know, you change, I change, the people
yeah,
we're friends with change. And so you there the sort of, it's like I read somewhere once that, even before we get here, we make contracts with people. And when that contract's up, it's done and you just let it go. So I kind of I agree with you in one aspect that sometimes things take time. Um, but I also think in a very short period of time whether you want this person in your life. And
yeah,
again, it doesn't mean that they have to be in there for a long time. I mean, you have a lot more long-term friendships than I do, but I'd rather have a few really good friendships. And I think one of the things that is really important, um, is that when you have a good relationship with someone, you don't have to worry about what you're going to, what you say and how you say it. They
mhm,
get you and they understand you. And if you say something like they really don't like, then they're going to tell you. And it's like, oh my God. Many times I've said things and people say, well, this is how it came across. And I'm like, oh my God, that's not at all what I meant. So tell me,
yeah.
so I can work with that. That's one thing that I would say. So yeah, I think people come and go. And it makes, I mean, you can only be really good friends with so many people.
To that point, one of the things I value so deeply in my closest relationships is that I feel like I'm always celebrated as I keep growing and changing. It's not like you've become, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I am allowed to keep growing, and we push each other in our relationships, but like I've changed so much since we started working together, in terms of, and you've just always been like, all right, this is the new, this is the new thing. All right, this is now the new thing. And it's never met with any sort of judgment. Curiosity, yes. And you're not ever afraid to sort of comment on it and ask questions about it. But to me, that's always been a wonderful opportunity to talk about things rather than I don't feel like I'm defending myself. I feel like I get to share another layer that I've
Yeah.
discovered.
Listen, there are the core things I think that we look for in a relationship, and that's different things for different people. And when you have those things, I just don't think you can just brush them off and say, yeah, you know what? I'm just don't want to be your friend, you
Yeah.
know? And that's what I was going to say too. I've said this before. It's like, I used to be in real estate, and when I used to take people out to look for a house, I would say, okay, what are your top 10 things that you're looking for?
Mhm.
And I compare this to a relationship. You're not going to get all 10 things, So if you get eight, you take it and you run. If you get seven, you're like, okay, that's doable. Now, when you start getting down to about six, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what you do have because you're not going to get it all. And what is the most important to you? You
Yeah.
know, I think um, loyalty is a huge one. And that's the one thing that you and I have. It's like I've been used to people, it's since I was a kid, abandoning me. And
Hmm.
abandonment is a big issue for me. And you know that in,
Yeah. I've
after
triggered that.
into our, yeah, and because there was a time when I thought our friendship was not going to make it. And then we got through that, and you have said to me, and since then I have never doubted it. You said, I'm not leaving you. There's nothing you can do."
Yeah.
And to me, to have that kind of a friendship, I mean, I think that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have that with everybody. So what is important to you? And that's what I think you have. So we can say you can, I mean, I asked kind of an unfair question, like what's important in a relationship. It's different for different people. And you have to be true to yourself and honor yourself. And if you're not getting seven or eight of those things, then move on.
And I think that speaks to what we often talk about on life stuff is like that requires a level of introspection that you have looked into yourself and asked yourself, what are the things that really matter to me in connection to other people? Because for you, like you said, those like responding to the questions that I ask and actually asking me about my life, like those things really matter to you. But to the next person, it's that they, I don't, whatever it is, get told how beautiful they are every day, or, they remember specific things, or really, who knows what it is? You are the only one that really knows. And you have to discover that by living.
And we all are a accumulation or function of how we've been brought up and how we've lived our lives and the experiences that we've had. So if you're with somebody who's never really had someone who's shown them
Mhm.
like affection and compliments all the time and just like adoring them, if you haven't had that, then you don't know what that's like, and you don't necessarily that's how you kind of live. But then all of a sudden somebody comes into your life that does all, like, holy shit, I've never
Right.
had that before. Now what am I going to do with this? And it's up to both of you, like, okay, can you adjust to that and know that that person's going to need that too. I mean,
Mhm.
I need to be recognized. I need to be acknowledged. I need to be adored. I need to know that I really matter in a relationship, you know?
Which, if anybody knows human design, Eddie's a projector.
Right.
So This is exactly what it truly, like, you're hitting it on the nose. What you When you feel the most seen is when you're recognized by the people around you. They
Yeah.
acknowledge their feelings about you, how you register in the world around them. And that's your gauge for knowing whether it's worth investing. If they don't, it's a no, and it's not even personal. It's just they're not the ones that are going to do that for you.
However, there's this goes back to your thing about sometimes things take time.
Mhm.
So, I can either let go of that a little bit because I really am extreme and I know that I need to let go of that. Like that's a little bit of being insecure,
Mhm.
So being a little more confident in myself, I don't want to need that as much. The other thing is you have to give time for the other person to adjust to this kind of
To
what's
learn.
happening with the other person and give them a chance because they're not going to change overnight.
No.
And I'm not saying they have to change because that's an option that they have.
It's just you bringing up how like nuanced it is, because to my point it takes time, but to your point you kind of know quite early on whether someone is worth investing the time into because of little hints at the very beginning about who they really are. But then it also takes time to learn. You give somebody the benefit of the doubt that they're going to learn about some of the things that really matter to you, and that they actually are going to love giving, and vice versa. It's so
And
nuanced.
and you have to let people know that this is what's important to you. And it's up to them if they want to kind of meet you in the middle of that or just say no. And I've had both. I've had both where no, they just don't. They don't like
Because they don't believe it. They don't.
well, I don't know if they don't believe it, but they don't it's just not in their makeup.
Right.
It's not in their makeup to, man, I can't tell how many dates I've been on where they don't ask me any questions.
Mhm.
And it's astounding to me. I mean, I ask questions. How the hell do you get to know somebody if you don't ask questions? But it's just not in their nature to do that. All you can do is show them and
Mhm.
sometimes, have a conversation about it. And then it's up to them. This is about anything. This is not just about, you know, having
Expectations,
them
right?
tell you that you want them to say that you're handsome or you're beautiful or whatever. It can be about anything. You have a conversation about it, and then it's up to that person if they want to do something, and it's up to you if you can let that go.
Yeah.
You know, a, a, a non sort of consequential or whatever the word is thing is like this is nothing new. You know, you're with somebody and they push the toothpaste from the top or the middle and you want it pushed from the bottom. Well, that's something I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Somebody leaves the toilet seat up. Well, I used to be one of those people. I hated that. Now I leave the toilet seat up all the time.
Yeah.
It's just easier. You don't have to put it up. You know what I mean? So certain things that those things are like, are, how do I say it? Those
Not
aren't
deal
important.
breaker.
Yeah, they're not important things. But the things that are important to you, that's what you have to decide, you know? And you shouldn't be with someone just because um, they're so incredibly good looking or the sex is amazing. Like there's so many other things
Yeah.
that you have to decide for yourself. So,
Mhm. Yeah. I mean,
your turn.
it sort of speaks to what I was saying earlier, like the little things. That's where I'm at finally in my life, where the little things don't matter as much, but I know the things that really do matter. And so that allows me to, I think, much quicker register when I meet someone, whether I want to invest a little more time, or whether I'm like, no, that's like I don't feel the energy there.
Can I say something? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that could also change over time.
Yeah.
like you just said, you're not the same person you are now, or the things that you like or dislike are different than they were years ago.
Mhm.
So that's perfectly okay to say, no, that's not something that I can accept right now.
Yeah.
So you move on.
Yeah.
But again, there are certain things now that I didn't like before that I like now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just where you're at right now. And that's what you have to honor. Where are you at right now? You
And
know?
I think the friendships that are like, to my point before, the friendships that allow you to keep changing are just, they see you through all those changes. And I think those are some beautiful friendships to have.
And
And they're
don't,
grounding.
yes, and don't discount or dismiss somebody from your life um, before you really examine why is this person in your life?
Yeah.
Because they could be there to teach you and to um, maybe change your perspective on things or change your out or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Because that's the other side too. We often dismiss people before we really get to know or say, yeah, no, this is not going to work for me. You know.
Mhm.
Um,
I think I think where we can sort of wrap this up, and I think we've both arrived at this like sort of bow at the end, that it is so nuanced, that friendship is and relationships are really like the most complex thing in our lives. And not the complex because they're impossible, but it is ever changing because we're always changing and growing, because our expectations are always changing and growing. And so it requires constant like maintenance in a way, and understanding and patience. And these are all very like nice words, but they are a part of any relationship growing in some capacity.
I think there's a nuance between honoring what's important to you and what you want from a relationship at that at this point of your life or in this moment, and also between like, okay, learning from somebody that, I mean, I think there are certain things that we are like, no, this is it. I'm not going to, I'm not going to accept someone who's just constantly burping, and
If that
farting. You
annoys you, then yeah, that would be
know what I
impossible.
mean? I'm just saying that if that could be like a deal breaker for you.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is that like, don't be so quick to um to have something be a deal breaker in a relationship. You
Mhm.
know, look at all the things. This is what I'm trying to say. Look at all the things that you do have and you do get from this relationship, as opposed to those things that you're not getting, you know, and decide for you. Like, and what we said earlier in this episode is sometimes you just have to give it time. And, I mean, I'm one of those people, like I want things yesterday
Yeah.
and I move very quickly, but you can miss out on something. You can
Mhm.
miss out on a relationship, a friendship, a love relationship if you just dismiss things so quickly and you don't give it time. And that's a very interesting thing. And I'm glad you said that because again, I've been the opposite. No, no. If it's not this way now, it's not going to be. I
Mhm.
don't think so.
Not always, but that is the nuance, because I also believe that if you truly believe like this is absolutely a deal breaker for me, then you can know sometimes that quicker early at the beginning. We're all imperfectly human, but it is our imperfection that always allows for constant growth. And it is through our relationships with people that we grow. It pushes us, it pulls us.
Just remember that people come into our lives for a reason, which I said earlier in the episode. And they're there for us to learn, whatever that is, good or bad.
Mhm.
Kind of basically what you just said, but it's like, let's not be so quick to dismiss people from our lives. Give it some time. But at some point, and also just listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Your gut will tell you. And
Mhm.
we don't always do that. And sometimes, again, it takes time,
Yeah.
but you know, just trust that.
I want to end with a little gift to everyone. I know how to play the piece that I wrote called Imperfectly Human now. And so I'd like to finish the episode by playing it. There's something about this song called Imperfectly Human that I think captures the joy and melancholy in life, in relationships, that we are often so like held and comforted and loved in a relationship, and then there are those times when they forget something or they don't show up or they don't like remember the thing, and there's almost like this feeling of like uh, I, and yet that isn't all the time, but it is part of any relationship. And I think when you recognize that, you can then start to gauge when a relationship is just going through a, oh, they didn't quite show up, but they don't not love me, or when you realize that like I am really not the priority for this person, and it might be time for it to end. And that's really sad maybe, but it also then opens you up to something new.
Exactly.
So with that, I want to share this with you, which is like a new thing for me to be able to like share my music from in a live performance. Like it's weird because it's not like the last time we did this, I just pressed play and, and we just let it play. But it's so different when I get to like infuse it in the moment, and I see it as a little gift because it's something only I can give, and it's something I created, and I hope you guys enjoy. That's
Bravo, my friend.
thank you.
Bravo. Imperfectly human.
Perfectly human as we all are.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.